Alright, everybody. So we have just butchered our turkey. I bought Macy when we first moved down here. She's a broad-breasted white turkey. I bought her intentionally for Thanksgiving. We named it Macy intentionally for Thanksgiving. Um, we just went out and butchered her. Humane, single cut, bled out nicely. We rinsed her off outside and brought her in. I have my pot on. It did cool off just a little bit too much, so I do have it coming back up to about 150. I'm gonna dip her, tie her up, pluck everything I can, and we'll go from there. This is my first time, so we'll see how it goes. Um, the butchering part wasn't horrible. Like I said, everything went okay. We just used our hands and a bucket. We do not have a killing cone yet. So I held her upside down and Mike sliced, and here we are. So I'm going to wait for the water to come back up to temperature just a few degrees more, and then we will scald real quick for about a minute, and I will get to plucking. I'll check in later.
Well, for today's start, we're going to be actually working on putting up the walls, which shouldn't be too difficult. I got a start on these yesterday, and then when Mr. Brown got home, he and I knocked out the rest of them. But none of these are actually cut to the lengths that I'm going to need. So I'm going to have to take measurements and cut them as I'm going. But shouldn't be too bad. Still need to try and run some against the actual wall, and then I'll wind up against these, just keep anything from trying to play around in there later on. But first things first, I gotta get measurements. Need to find one of them that is the right size to go on the very bottom, and I'm actually kind of thinking this top one might be, but always double check. Okay, so one wall is done. Next I'm going to start over here, but made it to where the bottom board can detach, and it's framed in, so having it detached isn't going to compromise anything. Started working with the staples, but they were not going in deep enough to actually secure it. When I got to the very last board on the long section, the staples started blowing out on every other board. So I had to go back through and replace them all with screws. But this is where we're at. Well, I have gotten all of the exterior walls up. I overextended that one so that I could tie in a little bit more securely into the framework on this, the pre-existing framework over here. Make it a little bit more sturdy. But this is what we're looking at this point. I still need to more or less figure out how I'm gonna go through and seal all that. I brought those back to this board, and the plan is to take some more of the shiplapped boards and well, pretty much drop them in behind into this spacing right here. Eliminate that, but I don't really have that option on this side as well as much because of the frame working that is, well, rotting out in here. But I'll have to figure out how to best go about sealing that off. Part of me is thinking that the easiest route to go would actually be flush it all to this point and then set up a nailer or something along the back edge here. But I'll have to play with that a little bit. Just don't want anything getting itself into trouble back there. So while I'm thinking on that, I'm going to start getting some measurements for this so I can get it dealt with. Okay, so a 61-inch board for this section. Goes 60 or 61 off of that section. Probably going to take a lot of boards to do that with. Unfortunately, that's been my cutoff pile so far. So I'm going to see what I can manage with all those, because that's a lot more material than what I'd like to get rid of. The tiny pieces I don't really have an issue in, but some of those are long enough to be used for something. Still got a couple of boards left over there that I can cut down for the side walls here. And then I'm going to have to get some more shiplapped. But yeah, things to do. Well, I went ahead and there we go. Ran the guides for a slat door. But if I were a smart man, I would have actually gone through and measured that first, so I knew how far out I wanted the boards, or how long. But I didn't. So now I got to get a measurement and start finding the boards that I'm going to be using for the slat door, and go from there. Well, I got distracted. Went ahead and squared this up and finished it up. Something Mr. Brown's been trying to get to the last couple of days, but he's been super busy. So that was not the most pleasant experience in the world. But it's squared, or at least the bottom is squared. And shiplapped and done. But I figured I'd share, because, yeah, I got distracted. Alright.
Alright, everybody. So here is Macy, cleaned, plucked, and in the cooler to chill for the night. I will get up in the morning and make the brine to get her ready to go for Thanksgiving on Thursday. But this is where I'm going to leave you guys for the night. For our first time doing a bird, it didn't go too bad, like I said. Cleaning it was fairly easy. We did make the mistake of not making sure she was separated in the morning. So she did have food in her, which made things a little more difficult, but we made it through. And there she is. So I will check in with you guys tomorrow, and you have a great night.